They thought betrayal would destroy you. But what if I told you it was the very thing that awakened your strength? When someone you trust shatters your world, it feels like the end. But hidden in that pain lies a force they cannot escape: karma. Betrayal cuts deeper than any blade, but in its aftermath, a secret truth emerges. Not about them, but about you. They broke you with betrayal. They thought it would end you, silence you, erase your light. But here's the truth. What they did may have wounded you, yes, but it also set in motion a force they can never outrun: karma. Betrayal cuts sharper than steel. It keeps you awake at night, trapped in endless loops, replaying every word, every smile, every lie you never saw coming. It makes you question your worth, your judgment, even your future. And the cruelest part? They walk away as if nothing happened, leaving you with the wreckage while they pretend to be untouched. But listen closely. Life has a balance. What goes around always comes around. They didn't escape. They only delayed the day when the same darkness they unleashed comes crashing back upon them. And while karma works silently, something even more powerful is awakening in you: your ability to rise. This isn't about revenge. This is about freedom. Because while they carry the hidden weight of guilt, regret, and loneliness, you will rebuild yourself with strength, with clarity, with peace they will never know. In this journey, we're going to uncover the hidden truth of betrayal, how karma punishes those who wronged you, and how you can transform your deepest pain into unshakable power. Stay with me until the very end, because I'll share the Stoic rule that frees you from endless rumination and gives you back control in a single moment. They broke you with betrayal, but karma will break them. And you are only just getting started. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it shatters you. It feels like someone ripped the trust straight out of your chest and left you bleeding while the world kept moving on indifferent. If you've ever been betrayed, you know this pain. It's not only emotional, it's physical. Your chest feels heavy, your stomach twists, your body shakes in moments you can't control. Sleep becomes impossible. Food tastes like nothing. The world loses its color. And in that silence, you sit with one haunting question. Why? Why would someone you loved, someone you trusted with your deepest self, turn against you? Why would they take your loyalty, your devotion, and twist it into a weapon against you? These questions loop like a broken record, and each replay rips the wound open again. This is the shattered self, the first stage of betrayal, and it is brutal. The Stoics never denied that pain is real. They didn't tell us to pretend. We're stone. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote in his private meditations about grief, betrayal, and disappointment. But what he discovered, and what we must remember, is this: while pain is real, it does not define us. Pain is information. It's proof that we valued something, that we loved deeply, that we cared. The brokenness you feel right now is not weakness. It's evidence that you were authentic in a world full of masks. And that, paradoxically, is strength. Think about it. Betrayal exposes two truths at the same time. The truth about them, that they were disloyal, dishonest, incapable of honoring what was given. And the truth about you, that you were genuine, loyal, capable of loving with depth. Their betrayal does not reduce your worth. It reveals theirs. But here's the danger of the shattered state. It's easy to turn the blade inward. You begin to doubt yourself. We spoke about the shattered self, the brutal first stage of betrayal, where you question everything and doubt your own worth. But the story doesn't stop there. Because once the initial wound cuts deep, another one soon follows. You whisper to yourself, "Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? Did I love too much, give too much, trust too easily?" And that voice, that self-blame, becomes the second wound. In many ways, it's sharper than the first, because betrayal convinces you not only that they were false, but that maybe you are false too. This is the turning point where emotional intelligence must step in. The very first act of healing is learning to separate fact from story. The fact is clear. They betrayed you. That cannot be denied. But the story, that you were not enough, is something else entirely. Those are not the same thing. Their betrayal does not equal your inadequacy. Their decision was never about your value. It was about their flaws. The battlefield is set inside the shattered self. It's you against the voice of doubt. You against the illusion that their actions somehow define your identity. And this is why betrayal, painful as it is, can also become the seed of your greatest transformation. Because when the fragile foundation of your trust crumbles, you are forced to build a new one, this time not on their validation, but on your own strength. You begin to learn the power of psychological boundaries. You learn to protect your peace as if it were gold, because it is. And most of all, you realize your worth was never, ever in their hands. To begin with, Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And within the shattered self, you are given that very choice. Yes, you were broken, but broken does not mean destroyed. Broken can mean reforged. Broken can mean reshaped into something unshakable. Imagine a vase falling to the ground, scattering into 1,000 pieces. At first, all you see is destruction. But in the Japanese art of kintsugi, those cracks are not hidden. They're filled with gold. And what emerges is not just a repaired object, but something far more beautiful and valuable than it was before. Betrayal can do the same for you. The cracks hurt, yes, but in time, they can become the very lines that make you rare, resilient, radiant. Right now, you may feel like you'll never trust again. You may believe the broken pieces will never fit back together. That feeling is natural. Healing is not instant, and it is never a straight line. But every tear you shed, every sleepless night you survive, every small step you take toward self-respect, that is progress. Even when you feel like you're still lying on the ground, you are already rising. The Stoics would remind you, focus on what is within your control. You cannot control their choices, their lies, their betrayal, but you can control your response. You can control whether you stay shattered or whether you begin to rebuild. That choice belongs to you. So here is the truth. Being broken by betrayal is not the end of your story. It is the raw material for the next version of you. A version that no longer depends on the fragile promises of others, but stands firm on self-worth, inner peace, and spiritual discipline. This chapter is called The Shattered Self, but it is only the beginning, because what feels like destruction right now is actually the foundation of your rebirth. And yes, when betrayal first strikes, the desire for revenge comes naturally. You imagine exposing them, humiliating them, making them feel the same agony they forced you to carry. That craving is deeply human. But the Stoics caution us. The moment you hand over your peace in pursuit of revenge, you lose twice. Why? Because karma is already at work, silently, invisibly, relentlessly. And karma, remember, is not magic. We uncovered the danger of revenge, that craving to make them feel what they made you feel. But here's the truth. You don't need to lift a finger, because karma is already at work. Karma is not some invisible force waiting in the clouds to strike them down with thunder. It is much simpler and far more certain. Karma is the law of consequences, the truth that what you put into the world will eventually return to you. Betrayal is not an act without weight. It is a seed planted. And here's the key. That seed doesn't grow in your life. It grows in theirs. Think about it. They chose deceit over honesty. They chose selfishness over loyalty. They chose cruelty over compassion. At first glance, it might look like they won. They walk away laughing. They post smiling pictures, pretending to move on as if nothing ever happened. To the outside world, it looks like victory. But beneath the surface, something has shifted. Forever. Every action creates its own echo, and the echo always returns. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The wrongdoer wrongs himself." That isn't just poetic philosophy, it is pure psychology. Because when they betrayed you, they weren't only harming you. They were corrupting themselves, staining their own soul in ways no one else can see. And here is the truth about the human mind. There is no escape from yourself. Guilt doesn't need witnesses. Regret doesn't need an audience. Conscience works in silence, gnawing quietly at the edges of peace. This is the silent work of karma. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't show up on social media. But it is always there, eroding their peace, corroding their relationships, unraveling their ambitions. It might take weeks. It might take months. It might even take years. But it never fails. Imagine this. They step into a new relationship. On the outside, everything looks perfect. But inside, paranoia whispers, "Will this person betray me the way I betrayed the idea?" Last one, they chase after success, wealth, recognition, but anxiety follows them everywhere. What if someone does to me what I did to others? This is karma at work. Not a lightning strike, but a slow poisoning of the very things they believed would make them happy. And here's the bitter irony. The more they chase distractions, new lovers, new thrills, new possessions, the louder the silence becomes when they are finally alone. Because you can run away from people, but you can't run away from yourself. And karma lives inside the self. The Stoics would remind us, don't waste your time chasing their punishment. Nature already handles it better than you ever could. Your only task is to step aside, to let it unfold. This is why patience is power. The ancient philosophers knew that the scales of life always balance, just not on your schedule. You may not see it today. You may not see it tomorrow. You may never witness their collapse at all. But trust this, their collapse is written into the very choices they made. Their downfall is already baked into the betrayal itself. Think about it like gravity. If someone jumps off a cliff, you don't need to push them for them to fall. The fall is automatic. Betrayal works the same way. The very moment they chose betrayal, the fall began. It just takes time for gravity to finish its work, and here lies the beauty. While karma works on them, you are free to work on yourself. You don't have to sit in the shadows waiting for justice. You don't have to obsess over whether they are suffering. Because every minute you spend focused on their punishment is a minute stolen from your healing, your growth, your freedom. Seneca once wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." And he was right. If you spend your life waiting for karma to hand you proof, you end up suffering twice, once from the betrayal and again from the obsession. But if you trust the process, you only suffer once, and then you rise. That is the power of letting karma work in silence. You reclaim your energy. You stop bleeding your attention into their life, and you begin investing it into your own. That is how you turn the chapter. We saw how karma begins its silent work, slow, steady, and inescapable. But here's where the real twist comes. As you heal, as you rebuild, you reach a point where their downfall doesn't even matter anymore. Because the truth is this, by the time karma finally catches up to them, you won't. Kari, you'll already be too far ahead, too free, too focused on your own growth to look back. Their punishment will be real, but their relevance will be gone. So why waste another second wondering when they'll pay? Trust that they will. Karma always works, quietly, patiently, and without mercy. Your role is not to be the judge. Your role is to become the survivor who transforms into someone unstoppable. This is the silent work of karma, and it's already unfolding. You may not see it on their face, you may not hear it in their voice, but from the very moment they betrayed you, they locked themselves into a prison with no walls, no guards, and no escape. The prison of their own mind. At first, it looks like freedom. They walk away smiling, laughing, flaunting a new life as if they escaped untouched. But that's only the mask. Beneath the mask, the chains are already tightening. Because no one can betray another without first betraying themselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When someone chooses lies over truth, manipulation over love, cruelty over loyalty, they stain their own soul. And once that stain sets in, it cannot be washed away. This is why so many who betray others live restless, unsettled lives. They can't sit in silence. They can't stand being alone with themselves. The moment the noise fades, their mind begins to replay the truth. Again and again. They see the look in your eyes. They hear the words they said. They remember the trust they destroyed. And it doesn't replay once. It replays thousands of times like a film stuck on repeat with no ending. It shows up in paranoia. They begin to imagine that everyone will treat them the way they treated you. They stop trusting friends. They stop trusting lovers. Even in their moments of success, they feel exposed, waiting for the moment when someone pulls the rug out from under them. It shows up in anxiety. They may smile on the outside, but inside their chest is tight. Their stomach twists into knots. Their thoughts spiral out of control. They reach for distractions. They drink. They scroll endlessly. They drown in noise, desperate to silence the voice inside their head. But the more they run, the louder it grows, and it shows up in sleepless nights. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. The body lies still, but the mind is on fire, because guilt never rests, regret never sleeps. Conscience does, not turn off when the lights do. The Stoics understood this punishment well. Seneca once said, "A guilty conscience never feels secure." That insecurity becomes their constant shadow. They may project confidence in public, but when the crowd is gone and the silence returns, the whispers grow louder. "You're a fraud. You're a liar. You're not safe. This is why betrayal always backfires. What they thought was power becomes weakness. What they thought was escape becomes imprisonment. They didn't just hurt you. They poisoned themselves with a toxin they can never flush out. And here's the paradox. You may think they don't care. You may think they've moved on, living freely while you suffer. But people who harm others always carry a shadow. It follows them into every room, every relationship, every plan for the future. They might hide it well, but inside, they are haunted. That haunting is karma in its purest form. Not fire falling from the sky. Not some dramatic collapse for the world to see. Just the endless torment of their own thoughts. Because no matter how far they run, there is one truth they can never escape. They cannot outrun themselves. We saw how betrayal plants a shadow that follows the betrayer everywhere. They go haunting them in silence. But here lies the cruelest punishment of all. While their mind becomes their prison, your mind can become your sanctuary. You have the power to choose differently. You can choose healing. You can build strong boundaries. You can cultivate emotional intelligence, quiet confidence, and spiritual discipline. While they are trapped in cycles of regret, you are building peace. While they toss and turn in restlessness, you are steady. While they are haunted by ghosts of their own making, you are free. That is the contrast. And that contrast is justice. You don't need to punish them, because their own thoughts are already doing the work for you. The more you grow stronger, the clearer the difference becomes. They believed they shattered you, but in truth, they shattered their own mind. And that prison? They built it themselves. They locked the door, and they threw away the key. This is the third sign of karma. Restlessness. A guilty conscience becomes its own punishment, and it never lets them go. If there's one thing every human being is truly searching for, it isn't money. It isn't recognition, not even love. It's peace. Peace. The kind where you can close your eyes at night and actually rest. Peace. The kind where you can wake up in the morning without dread. Peace. The kind where you can live without constantly looking over your shoulder. And this is exactly what betrayal steals. Not only from the victim, but from the betrayer. Because when they betrayed you, they also betrayed their own chance at peace. At first, they may appear untouchable. They smile in photographs, they post highlights, they throw themselves into distractions. They try to convince the world and themselves that life is better than ever. But peace cannot be faked. Peace is either real or it isn't there at all. And behind the smiles deep down, they know it's slipping through their fingers. The Stoics warned us that the greatest punishment is never inflicted by others, but by the self. Seneca put it bluntly, "The punishment of a guilty man is to live with himself." And that is the torment of betrayal. It creates a wound that festers from the inside out. Anxiety builds, irritability grows. They become restless, short-tempered, unable to enjoy the very things they once loved. Do you see the irony? When they hurt you, they thought they were breaking your peace. They wanted you sleepless, anxious, crushed beneath the weight of their betrayal. But what collapsed was their own ability to ever find rest again. Because peace cannot coexist with guilt, and so their life becomes a constant chase. They chase new partners, new jobs, new thrills, anything to fill the emptiness inside. But none of it works because the emptiness is not outside of them. It's within, and no distraction, no matter how bright, can silence it. This is karma's second cut, the loss of peace. And when peace goes, power follows. Think about it. What good is success if your stomach is tied in knots every time you walk into a room? What good is money if you can't enjoy it without paranoia? What good is love if you can't trust it, knowing what you once did to someone else? Power is built on peace. Peace is the foundation that makes focus possible, clarity possible, resilience possible. Without it, you are fragile, no matter how strong you pretend to be. And here is the brutal truth. Once peace is gone, almost, everything else begins to crumble. They lose patience with people. They sabotage relationships. They lash out at those closest to them. They drown themselves in toxic habits. Alcohol, drugs, endless scrolling, anything to dull the ache inside. But those habits don't heal the wound. They only widen it. Meanwhile, you, if you choose the Stoic path, are slowly regaining your peace. At first it feels impossible, but with every boundary you set, every moment of silence you reclaim, every act of self-discipline you practice, you take back another piece of yourself. The calm that left you in the storm slowly begins to return. We saw how the loss of peace becomes the silent poison of betrayal. But here's the transformation. When peace finally returns to you, it becomes your greatest strength. Because nothing is more powerful than the person who cannot be shaken. The person who doesn't crave revenge. The person whose peace cannot be touched by the chaos of others. That is why the loss of peace is not just a punishment, it is also proof. Proof that betrayal carries its own curse, and proof that healing carries its own reward. So don't envy them when they look happy. Don't assume that they won, because peace is not on their side, and without peace, they have already lost. This is the fourth sign of karma. They lose their peace, and when peace is gone, so is power. When betrayal happens, it doesn't only wound the one who was betrayed, it also rewrites the reputation of the betrayer. At first, they may believe they've gotten away with it. They move into new circles, charm new friends, even begin fresh relationships. But over time, patterns repeat, and people start to notice. Slowly, isolation sets in. This is one of karma's most subtle punishments. Life begins to separate them from the very connections they need to survive. Friends who once trusted them pull away. Lovers sense something is wrong and refuse to come closer. Even family members grow weary of the excuses, the lies, and the endless manipulation. Why does this happen? Because you can deceive people with words for a while, but you cannot hide your energy forever. The way a person treats others always reveals itself in time. Epictetus said, "If you want to know who someone really is, watch how they treat others." And the truth is, the world is always watching. At first, their circle may still look full. They post pictures at parties, surrounded by crowds, but the energy shifts. The laughter is shallow, the friendships are fragile, and slowly but surely, the crowd begins to thin. The phone calls stop, the invitations dry up, until one day they look around and realize they are alone. This isolation is not an accident. It is the natural collapse of a life built on dishonesty. Because betrayal is never just a one-time act. A person who betrays once will betray again. The same way they lied to you, they will lie to others. The same way they stabbed you in the back, they will stab someone else. And each act leaves another scar on their reputation. Soon, no one wants to stand too close. No one wants to risk becoming the next target. Even those who still tolerate them do so with distance, caution, and distrust. And here lies the cruel irony. The attention they once craved becomes the very thing that disappears first. This is how collapse begins. Not with an explosion, but with a slow unraveling. Deals fall through, partnerships dissolve, opportunities slip away. Because when trust leaves, everything built on trust begins to crumble. A career without integrity is a castle built on sand. A relationship without honesty is a ship with a hole in its hull. It might float for a while, but the water is already rising, and sooner or later it sinks. The Stoics would remind us that fortune is never guaranteed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that wealth, fame, and status are only temporary, gifts borrowed from fate. And when someone abuses those gifts, fate eventually takes them back. That is why betrayal always carries within it the seed of collapse. No matter how high they climb, the fall is already written. And this is where you must shift your perspective. You don't need to wait around watching for their downfall. We saw how betrayal plants the seed of collapse, how isolation begins to surround the betrayer until the very life they built starts to crumble. But here's what matters most. You don't need to check whether they've been left behind. Because by the time their isolation is complete, you'll be so far ahead you won't even notice. Your focus is not on their downfall, it's on your rise. While they lose people, you build stronger relationships. While they sabotage trust, you protect your boundaries. While they are abandoned, you are learning how to stand firmly grounded in your own power. That's the contrast. That's the shift. Karma doesn't just punish the betrayer by isolating them. It also rewards the betrayed by opening their eyes to see who truly deserves a place in their life. The people who left you were never meant to stay. The ones who remain, the ones who stand beside you now, are the people who recognize your worth. And that clarity, that vision, is a gift the betrayer will never know. This is the fifth sign of karma: isolation and collapse. They thought betrayal would make them powerful, untouchable, even admired. But the truth is, betrayal always makes people drift away. Trust evaporates, support disappears, and one day, they wake up in a silence of their own making. A silence not forced by others, but born from the emptiness of their own choices. And in that silence, karma speaks the loudest. Up to this point, we've been looking outward at what happens to those who betrayed you, how karma strips away their peace, their relationships, their stability. But now the focus begins to shift. Because the true story of betrayal is not about what happens to them. It's about what happens to you. Yes, betrayal shattered you. Yes, it broke something inside you that you thought would never heal. But here lies the paradox. It is often in the breaking that the foundation for transformation is laid. Betrayal is the fire that burns away illusion, leaving behind only what is real. And in that fire, you are given the chance to become unshakable. This is where the Stoic shift begins. The Stoics taught that we cannot control what others do. We cannot stop them from lying, cheating, betraying, or abandoning. But what we can control, what we must control, is our response. That's where your true power lies. Not in revenge, not in bitterness, but in the disciplined choice to rise. Think of it this way. Betrayal took something from you. It stole your trust, your sense of safety, maybe even your self-worth. But what it left behind is the opportunity to build something even greater. It forced you to ask the hardest questions. Who am I without them? Where does my value truly come from? What boundaries must I create to protect my peace? Those questions hurt. They cut deep. But they are also liberating. Because once you stop looking to others for validation, you begin to find it within yourself. Once you stop expecting loyalty from those who never valued it, you begin demanding loyalty from yourself, to your vision, your values, your healing. This is the Stoic shift. You stop chasing control over others, and you begin mastering control over yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Betrayal tests that truth in the harshest way. You may not control their lies, but you can control whether those lies define you. You may not control their actions, but you can control whether you replay them endlessly in your mind or choose to let them go. And here's the incredible part. Every time you choose peace over bitterness, you reclaim your power. Every time you set a boundary instead of seeking revenge, you grow stronger. Every time you refuse to let their betrayal dictate your future, you prove something profound. You are no longer their victim, you are your own master. We saw how the Stoic shift begins. The moment you stop trying to control others and start mastering yourself. But here's the truth. This transformation doesn't happen in a single night. It unfolds slowly, in small, almost invisible steps. It happens when you decide to put down the phone instead of checking their social media. It happens when you pause, take a breath, and resist the urge to lash out. It happens when you redirect your energy, investing it into a new skill, a new habit, a new vision for your life. At first, these choices feel like nothing, tiny actions, drops of water in a vast ocean. But over time, those drops gather. Those choices stack, and they begin to rewire your mind. They transform the shattered self into a steady self. And then, almost without realizing it, you discover something powerful. The betrayal that once felt like the end was actually the beginning of your greatest rebirth. The Stoic shift is not about denying the pain, it's about transforming it. It's about understanding that what happened to you is not who you are. It's about seeing betrayal not as a grave where everything ends, but as a forge where something stronger is created. And here's the reward. While karma is working silently on them, you are building a life where they no longer matter. They lose their peace. You build yours. They lose trust. You form stronger bonds. They collapse. You rise. This is why the Stoics taught that revenge is unnecessary. True justice is not found in watching your enemies fall. True justice is in becoming untouchable, so far above the chaos that their actions no longer reach you. That is the Stoic shift inside you. The moment you realize the betrayal didn't destroy you. It revealed you. It showed you that your strength was never in their loyalty. It was always in your resilience. And from this point forward, nothing they do can take that away. By now, you can see the pattern. Karma doesn't need your hand. It works in silence, breaking them down from the inside through restless nights, through the collapse of trust, through the endless erosion of peace. They thought they broke you. But in reality, all they did was set in motion the breaking of themselves. And here's where the story turns. Because while karma works on them, growth works on you. And the two are inseparable. The same betrayal that poisons their mind becomes the very medicine that strengthens yours. Think about it. Betrayal exposes weakness in them, but it awakens resilience in you. They collapse under guilt. You rise through self-awareness. They run from their own conscience. You learn to sit with your pain, to breathe through it, to grow from it. That contrast, that split in the path, is the real victory. The Stoics believe that every obstacle carries within it the seed of advantage. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are." And betrayal, perhaps, is one of the hardest difficulties a human being can face. But in facing it, you discover who you truly are. While karma is breaking them down, you are being rebuilt, stronger, sharper, wiser. You learn boundaries you never knew you needed. You discover discipline you didn't realize you had. And you find peace, not in their apology, but in your own ability to move forward without ever receiving it. And here's the part they never expected. Your silence becomes your weapon. While they wonder if you're still hurt, you are already healing. While they look back to see if you're watching them fall, you're too busy building your future to notice. Your growth humiliates them more than revenge ever could. Picture this. Months from now, they stumble across your life, healthier, calmer, more focused than ever. No bitterness, no desperation, just quiet confidence. That image alone will sting deeper than any act of revenge. Because it proves the one thing they never wanted to believe, that you are not broken, that you are unstoppable. We saw how betrayal becomes the forge of transformation, how your silence and growth become the sharpest answer. But here's the next truth. Growth doesn't just lift you above them, it makes them irrelevant. And that is the cruelest punishment of all for those who tried to destroy you. They wanted to live in your mind forever, haunting your thoughts, shaping your emotions. But growth kicks them out. They fade into the background, a mere footnote in your story, while you step forward as the main character of your destiny. Make no mistake, though, growth is not easy. It demands discipline. It requires emotional intelligence. It calls for the courage to stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and instead begin asking, "What can I learn? What will I build from this?" Growth means turning every tear into fuel, every scar into armor, every setback into a stepping stone. This is where karma and growth intersect. Karma ensures they pay for what they've done. Growth ensures you never need to watch it happen, because by the time their downfall arrives, you'll already be living on a level so far above them that their suffering won't even register in your world. And that's the entire point. The best revenge is not in seeing them broken. The best revenge is in becoming someone they can never reach again. So let karma break them. Your task is to let growth elevate you, to rise so high that their betrayal looks small against the vast scale of your life. To build a peace so deep that even the sound of their name no longer stirs anything inside you. To stand so firm in your self-worth that no one, past, present, or future, can ever make you question it again. That is the justice the Stoics pointed us toward. Not revenge, not bitterness, but growth. Because when karma breaks them and growth elevates you, the balance of life is restored. And in that balance, you win. Of course, when someone betrays you, the natural instinct is to strike back. You want them to feel what you felt, to hurt the way you hurt, to collapse the way they made you collapse. But here lies the paradox. The more energy you spend trying to punish them, the more you remain chained to them. The more you dwell on their downfall, the more they still live inside your mind, and that is not power. That is bondage. The higher revenge is not revenge at all. The higher revenge is becoming untouchable. Untouchable in your peace, untouchable in your self-worth. untouchable in your future. It is building a life so strong, so steady, so radiant, that their betrayal dissolves into irrelevance. That is the ultimate justice, the justice they cannot stop, cannot fight, and can never take away. Think about it. When they betrayed you, their secret wish wasn't just to hurt you, it was to own you, to live rent-free in your head, to keep you bitter, broken, and stuck in a story that revolved around them. They wanted to reduce you to nothing more than the pain they created. So what could be more devastating to them than seeing you rise above it all? What could cut deeper than realizing their betrayal was powerless to define you? That their act of cruelty became the very thing that pushed you into your greatest transformation? That while they collapsed under the weight of their own choices, you rebuilt yourself into someone they can no longer even reach? That is the higher revenge. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Betrayal offers you the chance to embody these truths, not as philosophy on a page, but as practice in your life. So, how do you become untouchable? It begins where the Stoics always pointed, with mastering your mind. Your thoughts can either chain you to the past or free you for the future. Every time you replay the betrayal, you reopen the wound. Every time you imagine their downfall, you keep them alive in your mind. But every time you choose release, every time you choose discipline, every time you choose growth, you step closer to freedom. We uncovered the higher revenge, the freedom of becoming untouchable. But what does untouchable truly mean in practice? It begins when you redirect your focus, when you stop wasting energy replaying their betrayal, and instead invest that energy into building habits, skills, boundaries, and visions for your own life. That's when you begin to starve the pain and feed your power. Untouchable means you no longer wait for closure from them. You no longer sit by hoping for an apology, their regret, or their recognition. You close the chapter yourself, with words as clear as stone. I was real. They were false. I gave my best. They gave their worst, and that burden is not mine to carry. Untouchable means you rebuild your peace. You protect your mornings with routines that anchor you, whether it's meditation, journaling, prayer, or exercise. You guard your evenings with discipline. So, your mind is not cluttered by endless scrolling or old memories. You carve out silence in your day, because silence is where the soul resets, where your strength quietly gathers. Untouchable means you set boundaries so clear that no one can drain your energy without your permission. You learn to say no without guilt. You cut ties with those who treat your trust recklessly. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Untouchable means you focus on growth. You take the very pain they handed you and turn it into fuel. You read more, you train harder, you sharpen skills that expand your freedom. You stop waiting for justice, and instead, you start creating success. Because nothing silences doubters like results, and nothing humiliates a betrayer more than watching you thrive. And perhaps most importantly, untouchable means choosing peace over bitterness. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, doesn't mean excusing what they did. It means refusing to let their actions poison your soul. It means declaring, "You no longer have access to me, not my time, not my energy, not my emotions." That is forgiveness as self-protection. That is forgiveness as freedom. Now here's the beauty. While you rise into untouchability, karma continues to work on them. They lose their peace. They lose their relationships. They lose their reputation. They stumble into the very traps they once set for others and for you. And the best part? You don't even have to watch. By the time their downfall arrives, you'll be living in a world so far beyond them that their suffering won't even interest you. Imagine that moment. They are restless, paranoid, collapsing in silence, while you are calm, grounded, building something lasting. That contrast, that quiet divide, is the real punishment. They thought they ended you, but all they did was launch you into the life they will never touch. This is the higher revenge. Not their collapse, but your rise. Let me be clear. Becoming untouchable doesn't mean becoming cold or shutting yourself off from love forever. It doesn't mean hardening into stone. It means you've healed enough that no one else holds the keys to your peace. It means you've grown wise enough to see betrayal for what it truly is, a reflection of their weakness, not of your worth. It means you've built yourself into someone who cannot be broken by the same tricks twice. And with this comes a quiet confidence. You don't need to shout your strength. You don't need to prove your worth. It shows in the way you walk, in the way you carry yourself, in the calm that radiates from you even in the midst of chaos. That quiet confidence speaks louder than any words of revenge. The betrayer lives restless. You live free. They collapse. You rise. They remain chained to their lies. You become untouchable. And here is the ultimate Stoic truth. By the time karma finally breaks them, you will no longer care. Because true victory isn't watching them fall. True victory is living a life so full, so purposeful, so peaceful, that their existence no longer matters. That is the higher revenge. We uncovered what it truly means to be untouchable, to live free, steady, and unbroken. And now we arrive at the conclusion of this journey. They broke you with betrayal. They thought that was the end of your story. They believed you would stay shattered, bitter, and defeated. But here you are, still standing, still breathing, and rising into a version of yourself they never believed you could become. Karma is already working on them. Their restless nights, their collapsing peace, their fading relationships, that is the price of their choices. That is the prison they built with their own hands. And you don't need to lift a finger. Life balances its own scales. But your story, it's only just beginning. The higher revenge has never been their downfall. It has always been your rise. It is in the way you reclaim your peace, step by step. It is in the way you rebuild your worth, brick by brick. It is in the way you step forward into a future so powerful, so radiant, that their betrayal looks small and insignificant against it. You are not broken. You are being rebuilt, stronger, wiser, untouchable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." And that is the path you are walking now. Not bitterness, but peace. Not revenge, but growth. Not weakness, but unshakable strength. So the next time your mind drifts back to the ones who betrayed you, remember this. You don't need to watch them fall. You just need to keep rising. Because your healing, your success, your freedom, those are the punishments they never expected, and the victories they can never take away. This is your moment. This is your comeback. And while karma is breaking them piece by piece, you, unstoppable, unbroken, untouchable, are only just getting started. If this message gave you strength today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And in the comments, declare it with confidence. I rise above betrayal, because this is no longer their story. This is yours, and it has only just begun.